Ladies and gentlemen, coming live from Ministry Studios, North Georgia, with John Professor Paul Superman Sperling, and producer Sam Simpson. This is John Paul Show Live.
Welcome to the John and Paul Show, brought to you by the Ministry League. Website is ministryleague.com, or if you prefer, the Ministry League. .com. Also, don't forget about the everything social media at Ministry League everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook groups, Instagram, and there was another one. I can't remember. Oh, yeah, YouTube, the big one. Go and check it. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, let us know, be a part, subscribe, all things good. Caleb Sampson sitting underneath us here, producing this great show in his wonderful studio there in Ellijay, Georgia. Thank you to him and the elders there for their part in what we do with Ministry League. Also, the Calhoun Church of Christ in Calhoun, Georgia, and the Piedmont Road Church of Christ right here in Marietta, Georgia. This is the John and Paul Show. With me, as always, is John Podine. This is the show.
It's morning time still. Good morning, everybody. Oh, man, Paul, we hope everybody's doing great, having a great week so far. Looking forward to the weekend coming. And, Paul, do you know that you just disappeared on me, but do you know that it is now officially fall?
It is officially fall. It happened about a week ago, but it actually feels like it. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah, except where I'm at, it's not. It's already like 90 degrees outside. But other than that, it is fall in North Georgia.
That is true. So how are things going on where you are in Florida? I know why you're there.
I think John's vehicle should be a sponsor of the show because he's always in it. Well, what we should do, Paul, is every time I'm on a trip now, decide what type of vehicle I'm in. I think that's what we should go with on this. But it's good. Coming down for a funeral today, which I'll be heading to as soon as this is over. But old Jacksonville's still here.
That's good. Condolences goes out to Matt and his family, obviously, for the reason why you're there on that and everything. But we here in North Georgia, just north, I'd say about 15, 20 minutes north of Truist Park, celebrated a win last night.
You did.
Bittersweet for me, and I'll explain to you why in just a minute. But I can't ask for a better. First of all, let me say thank you to all my friends on Facebook who did send me some messages and for birthday wishes. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The best wish that was fulfilled was the Braves winning the division for the fourth year in a row. It reminds me of the olden days when we won it all the time and only got one World Series. But hopefully this year will be different. Really excited about this. And so it's kind of neat because finally living here, I'll be a Braves fan, lifelong Braves fan, but living here and Brandon Edwards.
That's exactly who it is.
But living among people who are fans as well and living and worshiping with and family, it's really cool. It's a neat, unique opportunity situation. And so really excited for the Bravos.
You know, Paul, when I was driving down to the airport last night, I was passing it and I was talking on the phone and I was like, oh, look, the Braves are in town playing. Because I didn't even know they were in town playing because last time I saw they were on the road because they were in Arizona. And so I forgot that they were in play and the lights were on and the parking lot was already packed. I said, man, I hope they win tonight. I got on the plane, landed. By the time I landed, they had won the pennant.
The division, yeah.
The division.
And they also had this is hard to believe, their first sweep at home of any team, which is weird. But
really?
Yeah, but I'm just glad it was against the Phillies. So that was good. It put them 5.5 games in first, so they're free and clear. One of my birthday gifts that was given from my wife, my beautiful wife, Stephanie, shout out to her. She is wonderful. She's the best. Is tickets to the Braves game tonight as they open a series with the Mets.
You?
Yeah, their final homestand series of the year and regular season, of course. And so we get to watch all the subs and all the scrubs tonight. That's
Man,
gonna
I'm
be great.
kind of jealous of you there, Paul. That's going to be fun to be able to go see the hated Mets.
The last time I watched them, Mike Piazza was the catcher for the Mets. So I haven't seen a Mets game in a
Oh man, that has been a while. In
but
there,
it's good. I'm excited about them.
Brandon, we'll definitely talk about the Cardinals. And what's interesting is because the Braves kind of went on. It hasn't been a streak, but the second half of the year has really turned it around for the Braves to really just all of a sudden kick in, and they just went on that streak earlier in the midsummer where they were winning was it like 10, 11, 12 games, 13 games in a row. And that really pushed them back up into first place and then took over, and they just kept a hold of it the rest of the year.
It took 109 games for the Braves to get over 500. That's crazy. And before the All-Star break, no one would have given them a prayer of a chance. But Alex A., the
you got to give him props.
And they said it 1,000 times in the post game last night. He will get Executive of the Year. He turned that team around. That after the All-Star break, the trade deadline, so many wonderful. It's weird that they actually are doing this without Ronald Acuna Jr.
Yep.
And of course Azuna and Soroka, and then some of those won't be back. But obviously Soroka and Acuna will, and it'll be interesting to see what they do next year with that. We'll talk about this later on. We got sports at the end. We got some games to pick and some big showdowns to talk about at the close of this. But right now, we are going to begin and talk about, unless you got something else you want to mention before we get into this.
What, Paul? I couldn't hear you because that big ding that just went off. I'm deaf now.
That was that big. My bad. It was a text. Okay. So we are getting in our ministry talk today. The reason for this and all the things we're talking about is about Exposure Youth Camp. It is October 1, and you have exactly 2 weeks.
Wow. Can you believe it's October the 1st?
I cannot. December 30th didn't last long enough.
Well, Paul, like you said, October 15th. So 2 weeks we begin. Registration opens up for Exposure Youth Camp. People have been asking questions. We having it? Yes, we are having it. We are full go of things, and we are excited about this year's theme, about this year's speakers, and just the whole topic all around, and really everybody getting back together.
Yeah, and as we see it, I spoke with Marie, our project manager over our event in Huntsville, and she's been doing this for as long as I've been on the board. So I guess since 2000.
It would go back. It would go back.
Actually.
Yeah, it was longer than that. I still remember our first conversation with Marie when we had what was then known as the East Hall. It didn't have those. It wasn't nice. Remember, it had. I don't know if you were there that year. It didn't have carpet. It was just.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
I remember putting the songs up on a wall with the old projector.
Yeah, that was a neat time, and kind of takes us back a little bit on that. But we are excited to be there. And she did let me know that the Von Braun Center is ready for business, full capacity, no restrictions, and ready to go. And I like to hear it, and that's where we are. So,
man, that's awesome.
We'll see how it turns out. I do know, and you and I have had this conversation quite a bit with the way in which NCAA football games have been in full capacity, and that we're hoping that our congregations will follow suit and continue to do this. We've had an unusual amount of new congregations that we have been in contact with that have reached out to us and that we've also reached out to. And so we're excited about this. New groups want to be a part of this event. And as we said before, In this weekend, there's a lot of events. You can do different things, but in this weekend, you'll have about 19 hours of fellowship, Bible study, and singing. It's about the content. It's about the spirit of content. And we take pride in being able to do that and teach that and hopefully help people in their lives. And this year, what we're going to do today actually is talking a little bit about the theme and a little bit about the registration. And then next week we get more into who's going to be there and what they're going to do and that kind of thing.
It's time for pumpkins. Girls all dressing up like Han Solo and zombies. Scariest time of the year. Brandon, I don't know what event you're attending. This is not Comic-Con.
Well, this is October 1, not the 30th or 31st.
Oh, man. Hey, so Paul, why don't you go? Let's go ahead and so we let everybody know the theme a little bit about this year, because in case some people have forgotten or have not seen the video of our theme. So Caleb, if you are there and you can hear us, which I know you can, why don't you go ahead and play our theme for this year? Oh, double black screen.
There it is.
I don't know, Paul, but it sure just makes you want to get up like a bunch of superheroes and go and fight.
Yeah, that video definitely makes you think you're watching an Avengers movie. But not really the focus of this year's exposure. But we do want to make sure and communicate that this year's theme is about being a storyteller. And everyone would assume, well, this is obviously another Genesis of Jesus theme, but it's not. It's not necessarily. Obviously, everything we talk about is about, it's focused on Jesus Christ. There's no question about that. But we want to also communicate that everyone has a story to tell. And everyone has an opportunity to share something that affects the lives of other people. And so today we kind of want to talk about stories and storytellers, and then we'll get in a little bit in the registration stuff as far as our ministry stuff is for today. But a lot of it is going to be about, and I'm so glad that Brandon Edwards is listening and watching. Honestly, if it were not for my friendship with him, I'm not sure we would be able to find a way to do this theme, because he did invite me to help out with Harris III in being a part of the staff and putting together the story conference in Nashville the year before. I guess it was in 19, wasn't it? The year before COVID hit. It was an incredible event with some incredible speakers and teachers and creators and actors and writers and just in sharing what it means to develop a story. So you had all kinds of movie stars and people like that who've been and Broadway stars that really helped in presenting that. And so that's what kind of gave us the idea for this year. Because if we have a secular type story that can change lives, think about the lives that Jesus lived and the story that is in our lives, but also each one of us, our experiences and our interactions, and being able to share something that will help and hopefully inspire other people.
Well, Paul, and that's the whole key with all of this, is that all of us have a story to tell, because all of us, our lives are a story. They are shaped by the different things that we experience, the things that we learn, things that people teach us. and that because of our stories and because of how our lives have been shaped, we get to interact with other people in their lives. And when you look at it all, that's truly the gospel message. I know that the gospel message includes what we talk about as far as salvation and how to become a Christian and things like this, but ultimately it's about lives intersecting with each other and being able to share the story with how God has changed your life and how God has helped you get to where you are, that ultimately helps open that door to lead to them to salvation and through Jesus. And so that's why I love this whole thing. And like what you said, it's not just about Jesus telling the parables and telling those stories, but it's about us telling our story.
And all those, you're absolutely right. All those stories are unique. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
You know, you and I, we've known each other for over 2 decades, and we know a lot of things about each other that are stories that sometimes we probably wouldn't share, but
Sure.
there's stuff that probably needs to be shared because it will benefit other people, you know?
Right.
And so everybody, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, you have experiences, you have situations in life, and you have stuff that would benefit other people. Well, this year we have about, I'd say, 6 to 8 people that are coming together to share some experiences that are going to inspire you to continue to stay on that road, that pathway that leads to Jesus, that leads to God, that leads to eternal life with Him, and hopefully challenges us to hone in on the strengths that are there. We are strong. We are creations of God, and so He's given us the tools to make a difference. And so we're going to give these folks a chance to share. And what it's going to do, John, it's going to turn all of us around and think, wow, they have this story. What story do I have to share? And so we're hopefully going to tap into that.
And that's the whole thing. You know, every time we talk about this, whether it's you and I talking or when we're in our board meeting and we're discussing this, I can't help it. Every time I go back to the demon-possessed man in Mark 5, after he's healed with Jesus, he wants to go with Jesus. And Jesus tells him, no, you go back to your home and you go and tell what the Lord has done for you and show what the Lord's done for you. And Paul, the people that we're bringing in, especially what really excites me, of course, I'm always excited about our keynote speakers, and we'll talk about them in a second, but our spiritual challenge sessions about how even in your profession and your experience of what you do professionally, you have a story to tell and it can reach people in ways that other people can't reach. We always say that to our young people, right? We always say that to our teenagers. You can reach people, your friends, that us as adults can't reach. Why? Because you have a story to tell. Because you have something to be able to share with what God has done. And so that's why this is so beautiful about, really, it's the Great Commission. It is really that. It boils down to when Jesus said, go into the world and make disciples. This is what it's about.
Well, it's the worst thing in the world is to follow the sort of the one talent man situation.
Right.
If you're given something and God blesses you with something and all you do is bury it because you don't want to lose it, you're not helping anyone. You're not helping anybody. And you're definitely not edifying the church, the kingdom. You're not serving God. You're not helping people that are in need by taking something and not sharing it with others. I've talked to teenagers about this and adults about this. You know, regardless of your personality, you need to find a way to open up and talk to people. You need to communicate with people because you're going to miss an opportunity to share. We are only here to communicate God to others. That is the very essence of our existence in this world, is to go and tell. And that's kind of what we see on that major picture of our theme for this year, it being storyteller, is sharing the message and doing what we can to connect to people and finding that true connection.
Well, Paul, that's really comes to the heart of what the things like we are a part of, like what Ministry League is doing, what Into Global is doing, what are all of this, the Ministry League experience that people will hear about here in the coming months that we're going to do is all centered around reaching other people. And I like what Brandon is saying here, that stories paints pictures from within our lives. It colors our perspective. And that's the whole beautiful thing and I love the end. It shows us the power of the individual story. Nobody's story is alike.
That's true.
Nobody's.
That's true.
And that's one of the things that makes us all unique people, is that we're all individually, uniquely, wonderfully made. And our experiences, some wonderful, some not so wonderful, shape us to be able to intersect with each other.
And speaking of that, I don't want to mention names per se right now, but I do want to share this. We have, when it comes to our not keynote, but our challenge session classes, is the fact that our keynotes are good. I mean, we have good guys. We have Andrew Itson, we have Clark Sims, we have Lonnie Jones. Okay, we have some of the best guys we've probably ever had. And they've been here before. They're here again because they're so good at presenting. They're good at sharing that story. And so that's neat. But what I'm really excited about is the challenge classes, because we have first responders coming to share things that have nothing to do with their job. It's about their spiritual life. We have a firefighter who's going to share stuff. Nighthawk's going to come, and you'll learn more about who Nighthawk is later. It's pretty cool, pretty great guy. We have teachers, school administrators that have been affected in crazy ways. And we have videos that are being created and made about parents who have special needs, children and situations like that. We have people who've lost loved ones to a terrible, horrific situation, but they turn that, God has used them in their lives to turn that into an opportunity to find some good and to find some edification through it all.
And that's part of, that's part of the faith growth process, Paul. And when the Hebrew writer talks about we have these great cloud of witnesses, I understand he's really kind of pointing back into Hebrews 11, that Hall of Fame of faith. But I think it's not just that. In this life, we're not alone. We have a great cloud of witnesses that are sitting here cheering us on. It is each other. It's your Christian family. It's the people that we have. And so seeing our faith and having our faith interacted with each other, it helps us grow. Having our faith challenged, and we have people there to help us get through things, help us grow. And then we get to be able to grow and get to a place where we can share it with other people. And that's why I am so thrilled about this whole theme this year of storyteller, because it's putting it back into our hands, into everyone's hands. It's not just coming and getting a good weekend youth event, which is great, and we always will have it, but it's about putting the tools back into their hands and encouragement and saying, you go now, you go and tell.
Two E words: equipping and edifying.
Right.
We're giving people not just the stories of these people's lives, but we're telling the story so you realize, wait a minute, I've got one of those. I can share one of those. And I love how Brandon put it earlier. It's about painting a picture. You have a canvas, and you can paint a picture of something to communicate to other people as to how to live and how to do and how to connect and how to share. And that's kind of what we're looking at in all this. Really excited about it.
Absolutely, Paul. Why don't you tell us a little bit, because you mentioned our keynote speakers that we have coming in there. Maybe some of these people that we have that are going to show up.
Well, Lori Boyd, I know you're talking about the keynotes or the challenge speakers.
Either ones.
Well, of course, like as I mentioned before, Andrew Itson will be starting us off the first night on the 27th, coming in to share, and then Clark Sims will be speaking to us the next night. Lonnie Jones will close it out on the 29th. And those guys have a really deep history of being able to share stories, of being able to put things in a narrative situation, and taking scripture and taking those narratives and turning it into something that we can use to equip us, but also equip us to be able to edify others. And so that's what the keynotes are about. We have some really great morning speakers as well. We're going to share that with you next week. We want to share, hold on for something for next week, leading up to the opening of registration, which is a big deal. And we'll get to a little bit of that in a little bit. But like Lori Boyd is going to teach a class, girls and ladies class. We're looking forward to that. And then other people that will be coming in as well. Ralph Gilmore is going to be here, and so he's always got so much to share, and just a great way of communicating God's word and those messages. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about the videos that some of our guys on our board is putting together, and really it's about the challenges that face us. Sometimes it's a tragic situation. Sometimes it's an opportunistic situation, but it's something that turns us and allows us and puts us in a direction to live out that story to be able to share later.
Right. And the thing is, Paul, we get to see people and hear from people who went through it, and we can see how they overcame it and push forward with it. Some of those people that you mentioned, ladies, if you have never heard Lori Boy speak, from everything we've ever heard, is you're missing out. And so for those that are listening, they're females, and you have young daughters, bring them. This is the class for you. Ralph is always a favorite everywhere you go. Love some Ralph Gilmore. And just all of our speakers, Paul. It's going to make it exciting. So here's the deal. We want everybody to be there. So registration opens in 14 days. And so if you will get registered in those first few days, Paul, guess what? We're going to give them a deal where it's only $175 for the whole weekend event.
Gas prices going up. Real estate is going through the roof. Unfortunately,
It's
I can attest to that. What?
It's crazy.
Oh, it is. It's definitely crazy. But the one thing that's staying the same for now is registration for Exposure Youth Camp. We are keeping the same price we've had, I think, for the past 3 or 4 years of $175 for those 3 or 4 days. The meals, the entertainment, the hotel. As a youth leader, as a group leader, you don't have to worry about trying to get a cabin or a hotel or call ahead or work about this. You register with us, and we take care of all that for you. We take all the hard work away so you can do the ministering part. And so that's a big thing. We're really big on it as far as getting that done. And so I guess, John, this is that time where we kind of get into the registration part. We did say that it is 2 weeks away. It does open up midnight of the I guess at the end of the 14th. Okay, so just so you know, when the 14th clicks over to October 15th, registration's open. Now that day, the day before the 14th, there will be a newsletter coming from Ministry League, which if you did not know this, and hopefully you know this, Ministry League and Exposure Youth Camp have partnered together to do a lot of really good things. One of which is pushing through what we call Into Global Ministry. I'm fixing to sneeze. Into Global Ministry, and so that keeps us going across the world and spreading the gospel and doing mission trips and equipping youth groups, young people, and adults on making these trips. And that's not going to die. That's going strong, actually, and we're excited about that for this next summer. Another event about that we'll talk about later. But as far as exposure goes, we work hand in hand. So the Ministry League newsletter we'll send out if you have ever attended exposure, if you've ever given us your email address, you're on it. If you are looking on how can I get the link, you need to go to ministryleague.com and sign up for the newsletter, and you will receive that information. Otherwise, go to the website at exposureyouthcamp.com, and you will be able to find all the information that I'm about to share with you right now, which is this. Early registration opens October the 15th. October the 15th through October the 31st. Those 2 solid weeks. This is your $175 per person. Okay. Late registration starts the next day, November 1st, and it goes up to $200. So if you want it $175 per person, you need to get it in before the end of October. And to get it in means you need to send payment and register online through that link that we'll be sending you there. If for some reason you don't receive that email and you need that link, you can send me an email, paul@ministryleague.com, and I'll send that link to you. But it will not be available until the 14th of October.
And so everybody knows we do that, Paul, because we do have people that are wanting to get into embassy because, and that's been the thing for the last few years to be able to do. And so to make it fair, this is why we do it this way and do it all at one point so people can't try to get in early and do everything to try to make it as fair as we possibly can to allow everybody to get in. And the embassy will always fill. And so we try our best to get the people in there who register early, pay on time, and at least gets them into the slot for the computer to pick.
Right. So the big thing here, and I want to mention this because last year we didn't do this, but we are doing it this year. It is a change. So please know this. Because mail is running so slow, because it's running slow everywhere, UPS, FedEx, Amazon, everywhere. It's running slow on everything. We're having to order all the stuff early. So there will not be masks to hand out to people this year. It will be a T-shirt. It will be a storyteller T-shirt. And the merch store will be fully stocked, ready to go, waiting for you on December 27th. But because we're ordering that so early, registration payments are fully refundable until November 15th.
Correct.
So it's all or nothing. So if you decide on November 15th or before we can't go or something happened, then obviously we'll give you your money back. On November 16th and afterward, there is zero refunds because we are purchasing things and paying for things, and we got to cover ourselves as well. So hopefully y'all understand that.
Because everybody, we are going to be sending our order in basically November 16th because we have to because of the infrastructure and how it's set up in there. Somebody sent me a message. Sorry.
I know.
Oh, that's too funny.
Is it though?
Huh?
I said, is it though?
Is it? It's really funny what somebody just sent me.
Anyway,
that's why we're saying all this, and we want everybody to get it in on time. We will spend more time next week talking about this, so it hits everybody the week before, so everybody will know exactly where we're at. Because we want everybody in there. We're excited. We're expecting good numbers coming back this year, so we're just excited to have them, Paul.
Yeah. Keep in mind as you register that you could send a check early if you want. We prefer checks. It makes it easier. And you're not paying that extra $5.25 per person you're registering in credit card fees. So if you want to send the check right now, send a check. That'd be great. Send it to 1630 Piedmont Road, Marietta, Georgia. That is 300-6-6.
You don't know the zip code yet, do you?
I said 300-6-6.
There you go.
Mine's 300-107. That's why I had to figure out which one's which on that.
And here's the thing: we don't care if you send it in. If you do a credit card, we don't care. But there is a charge and people who've done the credit card per person. That's not us. That is the Event Smart / credit card companies and their percentage of what they have to do. So that is not on us. We don't see any of that. So just know that. Like Paul said, if you want to go ahead and send a check, go ahead and send a check. People do that all the time.
But you need to register your people during that first week if you want to get be a part of the draft for the Embassy Suites. If you don't care where you're at, it doesn't really matter. Just get it in, get that information in before that deadline that you're paying for. Mm-hmm. So if you send the 175 and we don't see payment until after sometime in December, then we're going to need your short on money. On that one. So help us do this. Help us do this right. We take a lot of pride in our event. Take a lot of pride in how it's organized, how we work it, how it looks, in every possible way. And so we're looking forward to getting closer and closer, and look forward to seeing you there for sure.
Absolutely. And Paul, we will talk more about this next week, and we'll do our second part and probably have some question and answer coming in there to talk a little bit more about exposure. But
right.
Paul,
absolutely.
It is now time. Caleb wasn't ready.
Boom, boom, boom.
I tried to do it. It's just not going.
You
I
did
don't
try.
have the magic. I don't have the magic touch, Paul. I don't have the magic touch.
There it is.
Goes. There's delayed magic touch in there.
The
It's time
delayed
a little
magic
bit
touch.
For hey, good weekend. You know, I don't know if there's been a bad weekend so far in college football.
Well, I mean, the first 3 weeks, you know, everybody plays cupcakes, and it's kind of tough to get a handle on it. But now it's this is where the rubber hits the road. I mean, this is the real football is starting now, and some teams are starting to show out. The question is, are they really showing out, or are they really not played anybody yet?
Well, and that's really
some teams aren't who we thought they were.
Yeah, that's really, I think, what we're going to see. I've heard all week in the last couple of weeks, you know, because you know, people have questioned Alabama. Which I don't know why they're questioning Alabama after the Florida win. You got to think about something. You know, they haven't been to a big stadium like that in 2 years, and some of those never. You know, and they did. They handled it. They handled their adversity, and they got the win. I mean, I'm not so upset about that, but everybody seems to be loving Georgia. They are giving the major things of Georgia. I think they're, you know, and I've said it on this show. I still have not major, but I still have question marks about Georgia. We'll find out more about this weekend. We'll get to find out about teams like Arkansas and Ole Miss and Cincinnati and just across the board.
I'm really shocked that a Gator fan has questions about Georgia. Not just really. I wasn't ready for that one. I wasn't sure that was going to be the case.
Look, Paul. I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real. Because Paul, you got to look at it. What is probably, if I was to ask you, what is the biggest shock going into this week of so far of the college football season? What would you say?
The fact that Arkansas is ranked number 8 in the nation. That's the shock. I mean, okay.
Then who do they replace as being up there in the top 10 is probably the next biggest shock. Is Clemson.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, Juliet. See, she's an Aggie, so she's throwing it all up in there. True Georgia. See, thank you, Landon. Landon is picking up from me there. True Georgia's fans are nervous for this weekend, have been let down many times with all the hype is. If I'm a Georgia fan, defensive-wise, I am pretty happy with where we're sitting. But I'm still got question marks as on the offensive side because the one team that you have played that is that at least defensive-wise is a, you know, top program, you didn't score a offensive touchdown against. So, of course, it was the first game of the season, so let's give it that. So, you know, if you have Vandy, you've had South Carolina, if you had UAB. So, we will see.
Well, to go back to your questions earlier, people are worried about Alabama and question them and their suspect because they have a different quarterback who happens to be breaking records every single week. And we don't realize it because they're not blowing out the big dogs. You know, and I told you they would not cover against Florida. I didn't realize how close it would be. I knew they would. I felt like they'd win, but I sure wasn't thinking they would destroy them on any level. A lot did. They were on some bad stuff, but and Texas A&M were the perennial, you know, knock on the door against Alabama, and I was, because everybody talked about it, I was worried about it. But the way they played against some of the teams that they should have destroyed, they were suspect, and the same is true on the other side. When you think about Georgia against Clemson, you know, they're hanging their hat against a team that is usually in the top 4, is usually playing in playoff situations there. But
hey, Connie,
I think sometimes we need to also look at the fact that Clemson lost NC State, and so they're not who they used to be. And is Nike worried about the fact that they gave $1 million to Clemson's quarterback? Can they pull that back? You know.
Yes, and see, and we haven't even gotten to the NIL discussion.
I know.
I hate the thought of the NIL to begin with, but I think you do. I think that's where you got with Arkansas. You have some major things. Arkansas, they have a couple of big wins against Texas and Texas A&M. I think everybody would say that Texas A&M is definitely not the team that they expected to do. Part of that's injuries. They're playing with a quarterback that shouldn't be that should be starting at this point.
Right.
You have Arkansas that basically they're winning on big plays. It's not like they're sustaining drives. It's a big play thing. So we'll see what happens and comes down this weekend. I think, and we haven't really got into the Ole Miss discussion, Paul. Will this finally be the year that Nick Saban loses to one of his former assistants?
If ever there's a chance, this is it. I think, and he's got two chances, obviously. As you look at the schedule, there's two chances. I think Alabama can lose 2 games this year. And the one tomorrow is one of them. And obviously the one, if they reach Atlanta, Georgia will be there. Sorry, but they will be. Saying sorry to the Georgia, to the Gator fan there. But if they play them, it's going to be tough. Everything is setting up perfectly for Kirby. Everything.
It is.
With
it is.
Clemson going down, with Ohio State being weak. Penn State's on the rise, but are they really an Ohio State caliber of what they used to be? Alabama question marks, Arkansas beating Texas A&M. Kirby, right now, the table is set.
But that's where Landon, and I believe every Georgia fan is sitting, and that's where Landon was saying is, we've heard this before. You remember this was, I don't know how many years back it was, that it was the year Georgia was going to smash everybody, and they ended up losing 2 or 3 games or something like that. Or even way further back when it was supposed to be Georgia's year, and Alabama came in there, and I think they had the blackout or something. It
was definitely the blackout.
And
Alabama fans love the Georgia blackout.
Yeah, and so that's where Landon is, and other Georgia fans, I think, are sitting right now is, okay, we've heard this hype before. Is this good? Juliet's definitely looking forward to this game coming up in a few weeks. It'll be fun to watch because Texas A&M is going to challenge. They've got to step up in this game because they've had this loss now in conference in the West. So I think what you're seeing in college football right now, Paul, is for the last, half decade, you've had 4 teams that have basically controlled the college football scene: Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson. Every one of Landon doesn't want to speak about the blackout game. Every once in a while, you had a Georgia that popped up in there. You had a Notre Dame that would pop up in there. But for the most part, it's been those 4 teams that have controlled college football. And what you're seeing is now, I think everybody else is caught up, or it's catching up. And you still have those top 2 teams with Alabama and Georgia, and then everybody else is kind of smashed in there between 3 and probably down to about 14.
Well, what happens with the Alabama scenario is, you have Jalen, and then, you have Jalen, then you have Tua, then you have Jalen, then you have Tua, and then you have Mac Jones, and it's like, wait a minute, that we've come behind in the second half too many times. There's no way it's going to happen again. And just let's bring a freshman in, because that's how I see him. I see Bryce Young as a freshman. He played a couple of games last year in mop-up duty, but he didn't play a lot, and he didn't look great when he did. But he hasn't looked good this year, and everybody's like, there's no way. Well, let's get some real teams in there, and let's see what happens. I think Alabama, as usual, and I took this last week, we're going to get everybody's best game. And
sure you are.
We're just going to we'll see how it goes, but I don't know. I just I'm like most Bama fans. I guess cautiously optimistic, but this week the spread is 14, and I know we're gonna get to those games in just a few minutes, so I won't say too much about it. But I think it's gonna be an interesting time in T-Town come 3:30 tomorrow afternoon.
It will definitely be interesting. I'm happy for Florida. We kind of got. I actually think this is more of a trap game for Florida coming up against Kentucky than Tennessee was last week, bouncing back. So we'll kind of see how this weekend plays out and shakes out. We do got 3 games that we want to talk about here, diving into. The first of the games, we'll go ahead and just get this one, knock it out of the way. Cincinnati versus Notre Dame, Paul. Who would have ever thought that this would be a marquee game going into the weekend?
Yeah, but I'm so excited that it is. Anybody that can put up anything against Notre Dame, I'm so excited. I think Cincinnati has a great team. I think the reason why people don't like them much is because we're talking about that Power 5 situation, and they're not quite the teams everybody else needs to be. But I'm telling you, Notre Dame has struggled against teams they shouldn't have struggled against this year.
Yep.
And Cone is out. I mean, let's not forget about the quarterback. He got taken out in the game last week with an injury. Honestly, I haven't heard anything about an update on him. So I think regardless, it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But on that one, I'm going to go with Cincinnati for sure. But what rationale do you have towards that? Am I on the right track here?
Well, I think you're on the right track. You got to give Notre Dame props for stepping up and beating Wisconsin. Wisconsin's probably not as good as what people thought they were, but at least they stepped up. Notre Dame's another one of those, though. If you look at it, kind of like Georgia, when they stepped in there the first game of the year, they went down to the wire with Florida State, and everybody's like, "Oh, what a great game! What a great this, and this, and this." And now it's turned into Florida State is 0-4. Had to throw that in there. Sorry, Brandon, if he's still with us, to throw that in there. But that's another one of some tight games in all of this. Cincinnati had a tight game a couple of weeks ago. Cincinnati's going over to the Big 12, so we'll get to see, can they really start playing with the Power 5 people? I think it'll be interesting because I believe the game is in South Bend. Isn't that correct?
It is.
The game is in South Bend.
The over-under is 50 points, and it's a 2-point spread.
It's a 2-point spread? So
it's sort of on the damn side, of course.
So they think Cincinnati's really going to bring the A game then, and they think that because if it's in Notre Dame, being home field advantage gets you anywhere between 3 and 7 points generally.
You would think so.
And so they know something then. So it's going to be a close game in here, and I think if it gets into the shootout, Notre Dame can't continue, especially if the quarterback's hurt. So I'll go with Cincinnati by a touchdown.
Yeah, I'd probably go less than that, but honestly, I don't care what the score is. As long as Cincinnati wins, it's a good day.
And I do want to say something to Zach. You don't have to go for it on Sunday. You're fine. It's okay to say go Gators. You're good.
Don't listen. All
right. Next
what
game,
you got next? I know what you got next. Let's talk about it.
Oh, we're going to get Georgia, Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
Georgia, Arkansas. First of all, why in the world are they playing this game at noon?
I don't know. This seems like a primetime event.
Why is this a noon kickoff for Georgia, Arkansas on the SEC network? Except maybe because you got to pick everything a couple of weeks earlier, unless they weren't expecting Arkansas to beat A&M, and maybe that's what it was. And so that's why they relegated it to there. But you have a top 10 matchup on noon at the SEC network, and it's going to be an early kickoff for the Hogs coming over there, coming to the Eastern time zone. I don't like noon games because it's always everybody's slow getting out of the shoot and everything going. But if it is slow, I think it favors Arkansas over Georgia if it's a slow game coming out, because Arkansas has got to, they rely on the big play. And so they just going to have to find their spot. I think they will have 5 to 7 attempts for a big play against Georgia, and they're going to have to cash in on at least 3 of them to be able to have a chance.
Well, I find it interesting. This is the game of the initial quarterbacks. And what I mean by that is you got KJ going against TJ. Jefferson shows some elusiveness. He's got an arm. He can run. He'll push that line. I think the thing that's helped Georgia the most, maybe not the most, but it's a big factor, is they're playing at home. They're in Athens.
Yes.
And I think it's usually in SEC. It's usually a big deal. But I think both quarterbacks, I think, are going to have a good game. I think the over/under here is right around 50. I think they'll hit that for sure. I don't think, even though Georgia's defense is pretty. I mean, not pretty. They're very good. And Arkansas has not really shown a lot. They've done well, but they just haven't been tested. This is going to be the test.
I think Arkansas, because of those two big wins and going against, and some of this has to go on Texas A&M and where they were ranked. I think the pollsters were just poll happy with Arkansas. I don't think Arkansas should be sitting at number 8. If they're in the teens, I think it's about where they sit, and I think that is going to. It's going to struggle. They're going to struggle with Georgia. I think what Landon has a lot to say is correct in there with Georgia's talent taking over in that fourth. Look, Georgia's deep. Georgia is deep in talent and not taking away anything from Arkansas, but the DJ, he was hurt. He got hurt last week against A&M. So if he back at full strength, you've got to have him to be able to run and be able to throw for Arkansas if you have anywhere of a chance. So if they're calling an over-under of 50 points, they really think Georgia's going to wipe the slate with Arkansas.
Okay.
They are really thinking that Georgia's going to probably hang 30 to 35 on Arkansas plus.
Right. I don't think that your friend Juliet's going to like what I'm going to say next. I just don't think Texas A&M is who everybody thought they were. And I think Arkansas manhandled them. Sorry. Quarterback play was shaky at best. And so I'm not real sure Arkansas beat just a top tier. I know they're good. I know they're better than most, but I'm not sure Arkansas is in the top 10, top 10.
Well, that's my point. Exactly.
Yeah. But I also think that they are going to, I think Landon may have said this. I do think that they'll hang around with them for the majority of this game. I think that Georgia's depth will lull them to death towards the middle of the fourth quarter. And I don't know that Georgia will cover, but I feel like they'll definitely beat them by a couple of touchdowns. The line is 17.5. So
here's my prediction. And Landon, I don't know if you're going to love this or hate this. I think Georgia covers, and I think they cover extremely well. And I think Georgia will get more credit for this win than what they deserve, because I don't think Arkansas is a top 10 team.
Okay, Zach asked an interesting question.
What did he say?
I'm not sure that it matters, but he basically asked if Arkansas beats Georgia, how far do they go? They go far. If they can beat Georgia, they're going to go far, and Georgia will fall far. But it doesn't matter because it's not going to happen. Georgia's not losing to Arkansas tomorrow. Sorry.
I think Georgia wins by a minimum 3 touchdowns.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'd give them 2. We'll see.
I think Georgia wins by minimum 3 touchdowns, and I think they will end up leapfrogging Alabama based upon it.
Well, that depends on what happens with the next pick we're going to make.
That's correct. I do too. I agree. But I think because everybody is sold on Georgia, I think Georgia will get more credit for this win.
And let me just tell you, this Alabama fan is okay with that. Leapfrog Alabama all you want to. We don't end up well at number 1 anyway.
Rat poison.
That's right. So, all right, John, what about the game of the week?
Oh, Alabama, Ole Miss. It's going to be interesting. I think what everybody's expecting is Ole Miss of last year. Ole Miss defense is better than it was last year. Yes. But Ole Miss is another one of these teams. They've been putting up 40, 50 points against nobody yet. So here you go for a big-time defense. You cannot tell me that Saban is not ready and has not had this game circled for a year. Everything. I do think for the first half, it's going to be an exciting game. I think it's going to be a real exciting game. I do think for the first time, Alabama will go back and forth with a team for the first half. And then the second half, I believe that will Alabama cover? I'm probably leaning on what you're saying, Paul. I don't know if they will get 14.5. I hope they do. I hope they blow Ole Miss out. But I do think Alabama wins by at least 10.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you there. I think you're right. I think Saban had that circled after the game was over last year, and he's like, I'm not going to let him do that to me again. And he doesn't want the first assistant to beat him, and he doesn't want it to be Lane.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know. They have a history. When Lane, his exit from Tuscaloosa wasn't great, but I will say before things got crazy towards
They
the
have a
end,
good relationship.
I would have said Lane was Nick's boy, and he would sort of be the heir apparent if Saban were to leave. Everybody's talking about it. I really think it's true because I don't think Kirby would come back because he's enjoying being at home. But that's another story, another talk for another time. I think it's back and forth in the first half. I do believe Alabama will pull away. I'd say end of the third quarter, first to the fourth, simply because their depth is a little more intense than what Ole Miss has to offer. Corral is awesome. He's a great quarterback. I do believe he'll be in New York when this year's over, but I just don't think the defense is what it needs to be to get it done for them. And so I would stick to that 10-point differential.
I think you will be enjoying your kicker this week.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I think he's going to come into play in this. I think he is going to have a good day. It will not surprise me if he has at least 4 field goals in this game, and that helps. That helps Alabama win by at least 10.
I think some legislature is going to be passed, and we're going to get this done. They'll get that done in the state of Alabama for seniors to have 5th, 6th, and 7th years, so that he can stay and get an income through NIL and continue to be the kicker for Alabama, since he's the only kicker we've ever had that's been consistent. So let's make that happen.
Well, I think, Paul, that already had appeared in there. I think, Paul, it's going to be an interesting. Can you still hear me? I hope.
I do.
Okay, good. It's just can't see my video. I think it's going to be an interesting year. This will set up the West. I don't think the West is won yet. I still think probably the best team to beat you in the West is Texas A&M, and in a weird way that we will discuss. I do think they're the best team. And I just don't think it's going to be Ole Miss this week. It's just not going to be Ole Miss this time.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's going to be a tough game, but I think Bama does reign supreme when the game's over. The Gator game, the Florida game, I did call what Alabama would do. I didn't realize how close it would be, but I'm going to go with a similar situation there. I do think that they're going to score some points. I'd go like a 37 to 25, 27 situation.
Really? Okay. That's interesting in there.
Yeah, they're going to score points.
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see Bryce Young in a back and forth game.
Yeah.
Can he do what Mac Jones did last year in those back and forth games? That's what I'm excited to see in this first half.
You're going to see something this week you haven't seen before this year, and that's the fact that Bryce Young's got to run the ball. He's going to have to use his legs a little bit. They worked on the play action pass last week against Southern Miss. It's a good practice game for him. But I think you're going to see that they're going to have to open it up a little bit to stay up on Ole Miss for sure.
It'll be good. So we'll get to see what we end up with and come back next week and talk about it.
Yep, looking forward to see how that turns out. That is it for this. We did mention the Braves. Congratulations to the Braves. Excited to go watch all the backups tonight, so it'll be good.
Go watch the backups, Paul. Go cheer.
It'll be great. Looking forward to it. Be careful on your trip, and everybody else. Hope that unless you're an Ole Miss fan, I really hope that your team wins this weekend. Chase Terrell, sorry, bud. We'll see what's happening. He did offer to be a guest on our show today. He hasn't texted me or called, so I would love to have brought you in. I'm sorry it didn't work out.
Chase, if Ole Miss wins, we have to bring Chase in.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that'd be fun.
So,
Well, Chase, a great guy. Hope everybody has a great weekend. We appreciate you for watching the John and Paul Show. Thank you to Caleb for setting all this up for us, being our producer and helping us out and directing all of our podcasts there for the Ministry League. Go to the website, the app, and check out all the podcasts that we offer through Ministry League at ministryleague.com, and everything social media at Ministry League. And go to exposureyouthcamp.com to check out about the event, and registration is in 2 weeks. Are you nervous? I'm a little nervous, but it's an excited, nervous, and looking forward to it. Thank you for being here.
I turned the camera off, Paul, so you can't see my nervousness.
Gotcha. For John Podine, I'm Paul Sperlin. Thank you for watching the John and Paul Show. Have a great day. God bless.